All right, from episode 4 of season 2, This Way Gone.
This way gone.
This Way Gone. I can already tell, after having watched this, that this episode is going to get bombed because the last episode didn't reveal a whole bunch.
Yeah.
And this one didn't either.
Right.
And I know a lot of people are getting tired of that. So there's going to be a good amount of comments in the comments below that are just like, I'm done with this show, or it's too slow, or nothing's happening, or whatever. Yeah. So I really hope that From starts to pick up the pace a little bit on reveals and whatnot, because audiences really just don't have the patience for this kind of show.
Unfortunately, they just don't.
Yeah. It doesn't bother me. You know what I think would work, though, with this show a little better is if this was like a Netflix show dropped all at once.
Yeah, I would agree with you, because then people didn't have, obviously, to do the waiting week to week, which whenever you have episodes like this where there's not a lot of, like, reveals and there's more setup and, like, yeah, I think that it would be better to kind of have it, the option to binge it.
I think another thing that this show kind of lacks in, and not every episode, but with this episode and the last episode had it to a little bit of a degree, but not as much as I'm about to say. So if you take a show like Lost, which of course it's hard not to compare this show to, the reason why Lost was so addicting is not only like the mystery that was set up and just more mystery on top of mystery, and of course eventually it got old, but I think what really drove people to the next episode and the next, and why it was so popular, was because of all the shows that I've watched, it's definitely in that top 3 when it came to like every episode ending with this like major cliffhanger.
Yeah.
That you were like, what?
Yeah.
I gotta know what happens, yes. And this show, like, this episode just ends, and you're like, oh. Like, I mean, I looked over at Kim, I was like, that was the end of the episode. Oh, that was it? That was nothing. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
So, you really do need that. 24 was fantastic at this. The 24 was just like, every episode, it would leave off, and you'd be like, what? Like, God, what? How? What? No. Right. And that's the way I feel like any show that's week to week, especially a mystery show, should end. It should end on a major, like, and R.L. Stine books, like when I was growing up, that was like my introduction to that. Like any of his books, like the first horror, the Fear Street books. I remember every chapter would end with like, and that was the last time he ever saw her alive. And you were like, what? How could that be possible?
Yeah, like
I gotta read the next chapter.
Yeah, right. Sure.
And
I
this
agree.
is, I don't know. There's just, that is where I find that this show has kind of an issue. You need that bigger punch, that reveal of like, just the what moment.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I still like the show quite a bit.
Sure.
I'm still really enjoying it, and
I have patience.
Exactly. I do have patience, and I'm not super upset. But I agree with you. I think that for it to kind of keep its momentum and be more successful with a larger audience, having those big reveals at the end would have been a good idea. But this is kind of another episode where not a lot of crazy stuff happens, and it's much more time just with the characters. And like, I'm fine with these kinds of episodes because I do enjoy watching shows and getting immersed in, like, the universe and like getting to know characters and everything. But I know that a lot of people find it to be filler and boring and all of that. And I wasn't bored, I would say, but it was over so fast and nothing happened. So it was kind of like frustrating in that way, I guess.
It's definitely not driving the overall plot forward much.
Yeah.
Right? But the reason why a lot of shows and the whole like filler claim that gets overused today is usually nonsense, because there is such a thing as entertainment and character development, and you don't need to have anything plot driven happen for something to have merit for something to have a purpose. And sometimes, you know, like I've said before with like shows like the X-Files today, oh my God, like that show had like a through line narrative, you know, but it was only like randomly, right?
Yeah.
Like the overarching storyline of like Mulder was looking for the UFOs or whatever. Then we just like take 5 episodes to look for Bigfoot, and for the other thing, it was like those were technically filler,
Sure,
but like super entertaining.
Yeah.
So I didn't care, right? But now today, we just very much need that plot to be driven forward, and we can't just do side quests, and we can't just do, you know, it's like playing a video game, like it's open world, right? Where you're like, I could go for the main storyline.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just want to, you know, help this guy find his chickens.
Right.
Right? That's, you know, some people are into that shit, and some people are like, nope, I'm sticking to the main story, and that's the only thing I want to do in open world games.
Yeah.
And I'm about checking out the world. Like,
Yeah.
I like open world games because I like seeing what happened to them chickens.
Sure.
Even if it has nothing to do with the storyline, I'm interested. Yeah. So, anyway. Okay, so let's talk about the episode. You're right, though. I mean, there isn't a lot to discuss here, but we'll do our best. Okay, so obviously the cliffhanger at the end is Sarah pops back up. We haven't seen her since the end of season 1. And it's like, oh, there she is. So this is our real first episode with her. The last episode was just a tease, almost like a freaking trailer tease. Sure. Where it's like, hey, Sarah, like, you know, she's coming. There. She's gonna be in the next episode.
Yeah.
Right. And the stuff with her. Okay. First things first. Do you believe that when she went through the tree, or if she went through the tree, do you think she ended up in the church basement, like she said, and just waited there? Or do you think she's lying and she either went through the tree and went somewhere else, or she didn't go through the tree, did some shit, and then ended up in the basement?
I think that she did something between the tree and the basement.
100.
I do think something happened. I don't think she just got there.
Because she's high-key sus.
She's high-key sus. And, you know, what that might be, obviously, I don't know. But I do, you know, she talks about the little boy, and Boyd's asking her, like, is this the same as the other voices that you hear? And she was like, no, that's different.
Right.
Like, it was totally different. So I do think something happened, and maybe...
And he's asking for help.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, maybe she got a glimpse of more what's going on. I do think that she's going to have some answers as to what's happening, maybe based on where she went during that time, and what that little boy might have told her additionally.
So something we had not mentioned in the last episode that we had forgotten, because we just do this off the top of our heads, and this is just stream of consciousness like we always do in the channel. We forget little things here and there, and there wasn't a lot to talk about. We just didn't mention it, that Tabitha had seen ghosts. Kaylee claims she said it.
I thought we did.
I have no memory of talking about it. I'm positive I didn't talk about it, but if we did, then I seriously need to see a doctor. But regardless... obviously, I'm going to assume that the kids that Tabitha is seeing is connected in some way or another to the kid that Sarah is seeing. So why they're children specifically, I don't know, but I feel like they're in a game. I feel like they're being pitted against one another as like pawns. Like that I don't know what. So my dad, we watched this with my dad, and he was like, I think they're in a dome, and this is an experiment. And I'm like, okay, they typically, when there's gonna be a reveal, right? Like what writers always want to do is they want to point out all the obvious things that anyone would think of, and they're going to have their characters address them basically eliminating those as options, right? It's like if they say it too early on and it's not a reveal, then it's basically a dismissal. It's like, no, that's not what we're doing here. So if someone's like, are we dead? They're probably not dead, right? Because if they mention it, then that's them kind of saying to the audience, like, yeah, we know this is what you're thinking.
Yeah.
But we're telling you this ain't what it is. So you can kind of cross that off the checklist of obvious things here. And the fact that, dude says, Jim says, this could be an experiment. Maybe it is, of course. But to me, there's no rational explanation. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Right? So it's either a simulation, right? They're all in some kind of like Matrix type of scenario. Or it is just straight up supernatural as we see, because a dome doesn't make any sense, right? That wouldn't loop the land back onto itself. That wouldn't create like portals in trees. Right, like that doesn't explain anything. They would just go to the edge of the forest and then they'd be hitting like glass or some kind of a barrier. So whatever is going on here is not easily explainable. It's nothing tangible. It's nothing within the realm of our reality. It's it has to be some kind of virtual reality simulation or aliens or whatever the hell. But yeah, a game of some sort, pitted good versus evil to see. He kind of points that out, like to see how we'd react, and that's probably close-ish to what's happening, where it's like they've been put in this arena, to see. It's like a study as an experiment, right? It's a human study of like how. And this reminds me, of course, of the real famous Twilight Zone episode, the Maple Street, or the what's that episode called, where everyone is the power goes out and everything on the street, and it's basically an experiment to see how people react when shit hits the fan.
Yeah,
that's like the big reveal in the end. Yeah, it could be that. It's just, but why is it sending them specific people that are in specific ways?
Yeah.
Right? Because it puts them in a certain frame of mind, and it adds to the drama. It adds to the stress, almost like a reality TV show, like Truman Show or something, where it's like, hey, now we're going to bring in this, fiance after, because if you really pay attention to it, like Kenny and her were kind of like starting to flirt a little bit, whatever. And then as soon as they got together, then she shows up at the worst possible time. Yeah. She could have showed up a week before that, and it would have been so much easier. Yeah. But it's like she had to come right at the worst time imaginable, right? As soon as she's finally moved on and accepted her state, like, I'm here, I'm stuck. I'm not getting out. Right. And at some point, I mean, if Kaylee was to get stuck in this reality and she was there for, years, and then we finally found each other, in 5 years, and I found out she was married to some other dude in there, I would totally get it. Like, at some point, you've got to just understand that, like, this is my life now. Yeah. My old life is gone, and I have to just make do with what I've got, and I don't, like, I'm already scared. I don't want to be miserable. So you find something to make you happy. And so, like, it takes her 6 months. She's in there. She finally accepts her reality. And meeting her fiance, I'm not surprised that it took her 6 months versus maybe a few years, because not a fan of her fiance currently. And speaking of her fiance, question, what was she doing in that medicine cabinet? Yeah, because she's like, I'm just taking inventory. Are you? Because there ain't nobody in there, right? What's up with this? You drug addict? What's happening here?
I definitely think that she was trying to take some medication for herself because of a drug addiction. That was definitely my impression.
It could be a drug addiction, or it could be like
an unknown or an illness that she doesn't want people to know about.
No, I wasn't going that way, but that's a good idea. Maybe that's why she was like
hiding some illness.
No, I was gonna say she's like wanting to get in there and take drugs to deal with the situation. Like, you know,
sure.
Valium, or like I can't sleep, I'm terrified, or like this is too unreal, or maybe she's like, I'm having delusions, I need to take an antipsychotic.
I mean, sure, yeah, like any
but I
of
think
those
it's probably
things.
drug addiction.
It seemed like it
I
was
like yours,
pointing
though.
towards a drug problem.
Maybe she's sick.
But I think that they clearly were having relationship problems before everything happened. So it's definitely awkward in that sense that they weren't like uber. I don't think they were in an uber even though they were engaged to be married. I don't think their relationship was at its best when she gets lost. So I think that that's kind of why it's a little easier for her. And not even easier, but just like as you were saying before, in that situation, like she doesn't want to be lonely and people need companionship and all that stuff, and it makes total sense. I mean, I had said that I thought that they were in an experiment, but, like you were saying, the fact that we hear it mentioned now in this episode does make me doubt that that's going to be the reality. I think that we might find some more things that seem like it's an experiment, but really it's just going to be this is some type of artificial reality that's set up.
Sure.
And what purpose that might be, whether it's a game, whether it's for observation, whether it's a mass dream experiment or something. I don't know, but definitely am. I mean, I've stayed curious this whole show. I think that the show does a good job at keeping my interest as far as that goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm in it unless like the show drops off a cliff and starts doing really stupid things or really never moves forward for like multiple seasons. Then I'd be like, okay, dude, I'm done. And once it ended, I'd probably go and like watch the last episode or something to be like, I just need to know what the hell happened. So Randall is very private about his stuff. He doesn't want to give into the communal sharing. Donna kicks his ass out. What do you think he's hiding? Is there anything he's hiding, or do you think he's just very private and like, I don't want anyone in my shit because he's, just a dick? Like, do you think that there's something in his bags?
Maybe he stole something before, he left, and so he's like
a criminal on the run.
Yeah, there's money or
it's a good
drugs.
I
doubt that there's a weapon, but he definitely is really touchy with it, and that to me, he's hiding something.
A criminal, yeah. He's like on the run. He like he's on a bus trying to get across state lines. Right. Running from the law.
Fly, yeah.
And he's got like what he stole with him.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
So that's one thought. He is gonna have a really rough night in that bus. That's for sure. Once it goes nighttime, yeah.
So
it's gonna be tough for him.
With Randall, I feel like there's only one of two ways this is gonna go. He's either gonna have a total turnaround, and he's gonna become like that character that has this total flip, right? Like, there's characters throughout film, throughout TV series, right, that are the villains, or villainous, or very unlikable. I mean, look at Steve Harrington from Stranger Things, right? He's the bully kid that you can't stand.
Yeah.
And then somehow he's like your favorite character by season 2 or 3. Right, you're just like, how do I love Steve all of a sudden? So do you think he's going to have that kind of turnaround and be like this very likable character? Or do you think that he's going to screw them over and do something really stupid and get some people killed? Because I feel like that is the only two options.
I do too. I think he's going to have a turnaround.
Do you?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that he I kind of feel like he's going to end up, like, sacrificing himself or something, like saving somebody. Because I do feel like he cares about people. It seems like in the, when they first get there, he's he wants to help them take people out of the house. So, yeah, to me, that's not, like, an awful person.
He's not overtly selfish.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I think he'll help people and potentially die in that endeavor.
Yeah. Okay. As far as like the Victor thing goes, the kid comes in, visits him. He's drawing some kind of face. I'm assuming one of the monsters. I couldn't get a really good look at it. He just kind of is mad at the kid and tells him to leave. We don't really get anything out of there. I don't really have anything to say about that.
Yeah.
That literally didn't progress at all. If there's something there, I totally missed it. So there's not really anything to discuss with Victor this episode. Tabitha, nothing really. We talked about how we didn't talk about the ghost thing last episode, but she is like blankly staring out the window as the faucet runs. It's possible she's seeing the ghosts there, so she may be like constantly seeing them at this point. I don't know. She talks to her husband, which he just mentions the experiment thing to her, but she doesn't really reveal. She doesn't say anything about the dress she found or anything like stuff.
No.
Or like the girl she found down in the caves, or I think it was a girl behind the cell barricade. So there's not really anything to say there. Now, as far as like Sarah, Kenny, Boyd, all of that, obviously Sarah lets it out that she was the one who was responsible for getting Kenny's father killed, opening the doors up, sacrificing him. He wants her dead, of course. So there's going to be a big fight over it because Boyd is convinced that she has the answers, potentially, to get them out of there. And even though she's done terrible things, they need to see past their own anger, which Kenny's being a little bit of a hypocrite here because he knows she killed her brother. She knows that he tried to kill the kid. And he was willing to accept what Boyd was saying until it was personal.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh yeah, well, she killed one guy, but I didn't know him that well, so I can forgive her. Oh, with my dad? No. Then she's got to die.
Yeah.
Right? It's funny how, when it becomes personal for people, then all of a sudden they can't see past anything. And I get it to a degree, but it's like, in this predicament, you've got to use the resources you have. And letting your pride and your anger get the best of you to the detriment of everyone, including yourself, is just very naive. Right? Like, I get it. She was responsible for killing your dad. And it's terrible. Even though he was the way he was, it still sucks. Right? But he needs to try to see reality here. This isn't a normal situation. And I am with Boyd on this. Not only in the fact that, like, he thinks she's useful, so therefore she needs to be taken into consideration for forgiveness in some way or another. Forgiveness enough not to kill her, as a tool at least. That would be like taking like a chainsaw that could cut your way out of a prison, but that chainsaw you found out was used to kill your father, so you throw the chainsaw out the window.
Right.
And you're like, bro, I get it.
Sure.
But we need that tool.
Yeah.
Why did you just do that? So you're being very stupid in that moment, and you're letting. But it's humans. They always let their emotions get the best of them. But what I was getting at is that Boyd sees her as useful. Kenny is angry, and there's going to be that kind of argument between them. There already was, but now. That's how the cliffhanger of the end of the episode is like, she's going in the box, and he's like, no, she's not. And then Brad Pitt comes in, and he's like, what's in the box? And Kenny's like, it's her, and Boyd's like, no, it isn't. That would have been a good scene.
I mean, even if she goes in the box, like we kept saying,
right.
She's not. We don't think that she would be hurt or killed or anything. I mean,
so
she would just survive.
It'll either be that she is not killed, and everyone's gonna like look at her like a leper.
Yeah.
Right, and they're gonna be like, "What the how did you survive?
Yeah.
Right? Or she's gonna get killed, and then Boyd's gonna be like, you screwed our chances of getting out of here.
Sure.
Right? So I can see it going one of two ways. That maybe she does have something to say, or she has something to contribute. But what I could see happening is like she reveals that she didn't do what she said and end up in the church basement, and she's trying to tell this to Boyd as like the night is hitting, and he's like, wait, what did you say? And they're like pulling him into the house, and he's like, no, I gotta hear what she has to say. And then she dies.
Yeah,
and he's like, you know, you killed us all.
Yeah.
Right. I can see that.
Yeah.
But I am in agreement. I have to say, I do agree. I think that she is going to spend the night in the box, and they're going to totally ignore her. Right? And I do still think that Boyd is immune. But he's getting screwed up. He's like, can't even stand up.
Something's
dizzy.
happening. I think this is the start of like a change with him for sure.
Yeah.
He's going to have some ability now.
Yeah.
Whether it's seeing them for like what they really look like, or hearing them, you know, like the same way Sarah can. I'm not sure, but there's definitely going to be a change with him.
I'm honestly very surprised that he let the doctor girl, what's her name?
I always forget. I honestly forget a lot of the characters' names.
I know Mary's her girl,
and I don't know
why. It is Christy.
Christy.
I'm surprised he let Christy check out his spider bites, because he has things crawling under his skin.
I thought that's what was going to happen when he showed her. I thought that there was going to be something wiggling, and she was like, what's that?
I was surprised because she was like, anything else? And he, like, willingly offered up taking his shirt off.
I know.
And I was like, Boyd, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, aren't you trying to keep this a secret? Like, how do you know she's not going to see what's under your skin? Mm-hmm. So that felt weird to me. Didn't feel right. It felt like not bad writing, but like just like they, I don't know, like didn't think of it, or like or just like I don't know what to say about that. It just felt weird to me when he did it. It felt out of character.
Yes,
like
I agree.
He's trying to hide this so much, and then he willingly offers up to the girl who's literally like looking him over.
Yeah, I agree. It was odd.
But then again, she's like pushing on his hands and looking a little bit at his like face and skin. But regardless, like exposing so much skin. Mm-hmm. I just would think, but mostly what we see is in his arms. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And then Jade is just kind of a dick, right? Like it's typical. It's his shtick.
That is his shtick.
But really,
he
it's just his episode. He's just a dick, or to everybody. Like him and her, the bus driver Bacta. Mm-hmm. They just kind of bond over having both had like moments in their life that were big things happening or whatever, and then they ended up there.
Yeah. Like
he sold his company. And what did she have happen?
She just graduated and was paying off her her classes. So
they should both be celebrating what they accomplished.
Yeah.
But they're stuck in this town. I don't really have anything to say about that. I don't really cool. I'm glad he found a little friend. I mean, he's kind of an asshole, so I don't really care.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as like this weird chick, the old woman who's been like super Sedona.
Yeah.
She revealed her name in this episode. I can't remember what it is. But regardless, nothing really.
No.
She talks to Jim and they chat a little bit, but like that's it.
Boyd sees the priest too.
Yes, okay, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just going to say that was another thing. And I truthfully wasn't totally sure what to make of it, because it does seem like an actual, like, I don't think it's his ghost. I think that it's like something projecting as him.
Maybe, yeah.
That was kind of the impression that I got.
But is he only able to see it because he's infected?
Yes, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think just like the monsters, I think it's taking his face. I didn't feel like it was really him.
So is it possible though that he's, just screwed up because he's sick
Of course.
and he's seeing stuff?
Of course,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I think that I think this is the town. And I don't think it's the monsters, right? Like obviously there's a talisman in there. Like they couldn't have came in. Why would they bother after all this time? They're going to start acting like other people. No, it's probably the guy from the basement, or something like him.
Yeah.
But it's purposely pushing him in a certain direction, right? This is like a game of chess to them.
Yeah.
Right, where they kind of come in and influence to a degree, and when they start working outside of the rules or the parameters of the game, this is when they have to call in and be like, "You need to stop what you're doing," right? Like, stop digging. That's not part of the rules.
Yeah.
Right, and if you don't, penalties are coming. So, yeah, and then the Elgin gets talked to.
Sure, a little bit, yeah.
For like a second.
We don't really get anything about that interaction. Just she's like, I'm here if you ever want to talk. And he's just kind of in his head.
Yeah, Julie comes over and she says some stuff to him. Nothing really all that interesting.
Yeah.
So there's nothing really there.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see why people aren't big on this episode if they aren't.
Yeah.
Just because we've just mentioned probably like 6-7 characters in a row where I'm like, I don't really think anything happened there, but it, now Julie and Elgin are like acquainted.
Sure. Yeah, they know each other. They'll definitely be talking further.
Yeah.
And there's only so many people here, so they have to interact again.
Yeah. That's not a huge progression, obviously.
Right.
I'm not going to defend that. But she tried to talk to him. He's still in his head. He was in his head last time.
Yeah.
We're not really moving forward with him much. They showed a recap and showed him freaking out in the recap. And I was like, oh, we're going to get some stuff with Elgin. And it's like, he's just like on the porch being like, I've seen some stuff.
Right.
I wouldn't recommend it. And then he just like goes back. And I'm like, oh, that's it? Really? That's all we're getting from him this episode? Okay. Maybe next episode. And that's it.
Yeah.
So, if Sarah goes in the box, then that will mean that Randall will see what's happening.
Yeah.
Because he's going to get like a direct line of sight. From where the bus is,
Yes.
I think the bus is looking right
I
at
think
the
so.
box.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. He'll be able to see exactly what happens.
Right. So he'll be able
He might try and go save her even.
But I'm assuming Boyd's going to hang out in the little sheriff's office, which is right outside of the box. But does it have a direct line of sight to the box? I feel like the box is like behind the wall that's
I don't
on this side of the
remember.
building.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Pretty sure that's accurate on the geography, but I could be wrong. But that's it. Not a ton to talk about, but I'm still very interested in what we're seeing where this goes. But this was definitely not some big revelation episode. And not a lot happens with characters to make me laugh or make me like, oh, I like this character more now. Or like I feel the same. I guess you could call this filler to a degree. Because outside of Kenny finding out what if he found out and Randall being moved to the bus, I feel like you could skip this episode, just be told those two things, and you'd be ready for the next episode.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know anything more about anyone or anything.
I agree. I think, it doesn't really give you a ton more.
Yeah. So, a bummer of an episode. So, it is what it is. We'll be here next week, and hopefully we have more to say. Looking through more, just the characters, just to see if I missed anything. talked about everything.
Yeah.
So that's that. All right, guys. So until next week.